Hello and welcome back to In Response EDH. I'm your host Albert, and today we have another great Commander gameplay video for you. Make sure to stay tuned to the end of this episode for a special giveaway announcement. With the new Stranger Things Secret Lair commanders on the horizon, we have our first look at one with Will the Wise, piloted by Abel. Even though these commanders have the Friends Forever partner mechanic, Abel only ever plays Orzhov and has chosen to have Will go at it alone. He decides to start with Dam, Glasses of Urza, Ethereal Haze, Darkness, Dusk Legion Zealot, Cavern of Souls, and a Vault of Champions. Next we have Devin, making his first appearance on the channel, and he's brought Xenagos, God of Revels. This is just your typical build with big value creatures that get into the red zone for big damage with Xenagos' pump ability. He keeps an opening hand with Jiraga Tree Speaker, Temur Battle Rage, Arasta the Endless Web, Into the North, Cultivate, and 2 forests. Daniel's back and he's brought Lyzolda the Blood Witch. This is an aristocrat deck that uses Lyzolda's ability to sacrifice creatures and drain his opponent's life total, all while recurring them from the graveyard over and over again. His starting hand consists of Tibalt Rakish Instigator, Butcher Ghoul, Tainted Ether, Geralf's Messenger, Smoldering Marsh, and 2 swamps. Lastly, I'll be playing Anowan the Ruin Thief. This is just an upgraded precon. All I want to do is mill my opponents out while somehow not making any enemies. I keep a one-lander, which I always say not to, and start off with a Soul Ring, Sig River Cutthroat, Varagoth Blood Skysire, Night Veil Sprite, Pact of the Serpent, Treasure Cruise, and a Watery Grave. Before we get started, we would like to remind you, if you enjoy our content and would like to support the channel, consider becoming a patron. When you do, you're not only contributing to the channel's growth, but you're also being entered in our monthly giveaways, as well as receiving patron-only perks. All proceeds of our Patreon are reinvested back into the channel to bring you the best content possible. We would also like to thank our new sponsor, Dragon Shield. Hit the link in the description of this video to check out the best products out there to protect your cardboard. With that said, and the introductions out of the way, let's start the game. Devin starts the game by playing a forest and casting Jiraga Tree Speaker. I shock in a Watery Grave and cast a turn 1 Soul Ring. Abel plays a Cavern of Souls, choosing humans. He then taps it and casts a Glasses of Urza. Daniel just plays a pretty Smoldering Marsh, tapped and passes. Devin untaps and draws for turn.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Weird thing. All of my basics in here have an emblem. They're all snow basics. I like playing with different art, and there's only 3 options for snow. There's only 1 card that cares.
That's not true. There's like 4 now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It'll be... I'm about to play the 1 card that cares.
Okay.
Alright, so I'm going to level up Jiraga Tree Speaker. I'm going to tap this for 2 mana, and I'm going to play this Into the North. This is what I was referring to. And then that'll be it for me.
Am I the only one who cares about the rules here?
I untap and draw for turn, and instantly regret keeping a one-lander. I then tap 3 to cast Varagoth, Blood Sky Sire, and pass the turn. On my end step, Abel taps the glasses to take a peek at my hand. Abel then draws for turn, and plays a Vault of Champions. He then taps out to cast his commander, Will the Wise. When it enters, he offers each of us a clue token. Daniel and I both accept it, but Devin declines it and loses a life. This allows Abel to make 3 tokens for himself, and after that, he ends his turn. Daniel draws and plays a basic swamp as his land for turn. He then taps 2 to cast a Butcher Ghoul and passes.
Play this forest, this snow-covered forest.
Devin then taps all 4 mana to cast an Arasta of the Endless Web. He then ends his turn.
We're going to play a Castle Lockdwing and control a swamp.
Alright.
I got there, guys.
You got there. All natural.
No natural.
I then move straight into combat and swing Varagoth at Abel. I also choose to use his Boast ability, floating 1 mana from my Soul Ring, to tutor up a card to the top of my library. Before damage, I use the rest of my mana to crack my clue token and draw the card. Abel chooses not to block and takes 2 damage. On my second main phase, I play the mana crypt I searched up and pass. Once again on my end step, Abel uses the glasses, this time to look at Devin's hand. He then draws for turn and plays an actual snow-covered land. Abel then taps 2 to cast Dusk Legion Zealot. As it enters, he draws a card and loses a life. He then moves to combat and swings at me with Will for 1 commander damage. Daniel drops another swamp on the field. He then taps out to cast Tybalt, Rakish Instigator. He chooses to use his -2 ability to create a 1/1 devil and passes. Devin taps a land and his Tree Speaker for 2 green mana and then casts a Cultivate.
I'm gonna go get a totally legit snow-covered forest and mountain.
He decides to put the mountain into play tapped and the forest in his hand. He then plays that forest as his land for turn. I start my turn winning my mana crypt roll, and then draw my card, failing to find a land. I then tap out to cast my commander, Anowan the Ruin Thief. After that, I move to combat and swing at Abel, who chooses to block with his Zealot. On my end step, Abel uses his glasses to look at Daniel's hand this time. He then untaps and draws. He shocks in a Godless Shrine and passes the turn. Daniel untaps and draws. He plays another swamp, then taps 3 mana to cast his commander, Lyzolda the Blood Witch. After that, he activates his Tybalt again to make another devil and passes. Devin starts by playing another forest, then pays 6 to cast Inferno of the Star Mounts. Daniel apparently doesn't want any part of that card, and casts a Force of Despair for free by exiling a black card from his hand. Devin's Arasta will trigger, and he makes a 1/2 spider token with reach. After that, he ends his turn. I start my turn by losing my mana crypt trigger and taking 3 damage. I draw for turn and decide to cast a Commander Sphere. After that, I tap out and use my remaining floating mana to cast Stink Drinker Bandit. I then choose to go to combat and swing at Abel again with my buffed up commander. Abel decides to take it, and Anowan has him mill the top 4 cards of his library. He doesn't mill a creature, so I don't get to draw a card. On my end step, Abel cracks a couple clues to draw 2 cards. He then uses the glasses to look at my hand again, and then moves to his turn.
I'll play a land, a strip mine.
Oh,
Any fancy lands? You have the locked ring.
I just got
over
the
there.
lock line.
You can strip mine yourself.
Yeah.
I've seen it done.
White. I'm gonna overload. Damn.
Damn.
Of God.
Alright, I'm gonna make a 1/2.
After blowing up the board, Daniel has a few triggers go off. He returns his ghoul to the battlefield with the Undying trigger, and hits Abel with both devil triggers.
Like for
And
some
Will
part-
will leave. Would you like to make a clue or lose a life?
I'll make another clue.
All right.
This time we all choose to make clues, and Abel gets to make 4. Daniel drops a mountain on the field and taps out to cast a Blood Gift Demon.
You have that next highest life total, Devin. I'll attack you for 2.
You know what? That's reasonable.
Devin plays a Prismatic Vista as his land for turn. He then taps 5 mana to cast his commander, Xenagos, God of Revels.
It's a nice enchantment. Doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do anything.
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing to worry about.
Exactly.
Clearly worst card ever.
I'm just gonna do this now.
Yeah.
Go get a snow-covered mountain.
I win my mana crypt trigger this time and don't lose any life. I then draw for turn and play a Temple of Deceit, scrying the top card of my library and keeping it there. After that, I tap 2 to cast Sig River Cutthroat. I then tap 2 more to cast a Night Veil Sprite. After that, I tap 2 mana and crack the clue to draw a card. I did make a mistake and surveil a card into my graveyard thinking it was an ETB trigger, but I do eventually catch it and correct it. Abel then draws and casts a Wall of Omens, drawing a card as it enters the battlefield. He follows that up with a Thought Vessel, and then he ends his turn.
This is when it attacks, not when it enters.
You dirty cheater.
Daniel starts his turn by losing 1 life, and chooses himself to draw a card with the Bloodgift Demon. He then draws for turn, and taps 4 to cast Rakamar. On Daniel's end step, Devin pays 2 to crack a clue and draw a card. He then draws for turn, and taps 6 mana to cast Rurik Thar the Unbowed. After that, he moves to his combat step, and chooses to double Rurik Thar's power and toughness with his commander. He decides to swing him at Daniel, but rather than take 12, Daniel chumps him with his zombie. I lose the die roll for my mana crypt this time, and take 3 damage. I then find and play a Castle Vantress as my land for turn, then pay an extra 2 mana to recast my commander, Anowan. After that, I move to combat and swing both my creatures at Devin. We all missed the fact that Rurik Thar should have been untapped since he had Vigilance, but oh well, take your beats. He takes 4 damage, and then he mills the top 4 of his library, of which there are some creatures, so I draw a card from Anowan's ability. But before I do, I surveil with the Sprite and send a Swamp to the graveyard. On my end step, since an opponent lost 3 or more life, I draw a card with Sig, and then Abel decides to look at my new cards I just drew with the glasses. Abel then chooses to sacrifice a clue token to draw a card. Abel then draws for turn and casts an Anointed Procession.
He lost 6 life, so I will draw a card.
Oh, it's so good.
Dude, teamwork makes the dream work.
That's what I'm talking about, bro.
Yeah.
Daniel starts his turn the same as last, by drawing an extra card and losing a life thanks to the demon. He casts a painful Soul Ring, taking 6 damage in the process. Daniel follows that up by casting Giralf's Messenger. When it enters the battlefield, he targets me with its ability, and I lose 2 life. Since he did lose more than 3 life, I draw from the Sig. Devin starts his turn by casting an Oren Frostfang. He then enters combat and targets a snake with Xenagos. He chooses to swing the snake at me, and Rurik Thar at Abel. Abel blocks with his Wall of Omens, and I just take the hit for 4. Since a creature did damage to a player, Devin gets to draw a card from the Frostfang. I start by again winning the mana crypt roll, and then cast a Rankle, Master of Pranks. I choose to go to combat and swing with all my creatures, swinging Anowan and Sig at Abel, and Rankle and the Sprite at Daniel. I then surveil since a Night Veil Sprite attacked and just leave it on top. Before damage, Daniel casts a Lightning Bolt on the Sprite, killing it. He takes 6 damage in the process from Rurik Thar, and then we go to blocks.
So you'll take 4.
I'm blocking my blood with Demon Wrinkle.
Oh, you have a flyer.
Yeah.
Get blown out.
I talk Daniel into not blocking with my sick politicking skills, and they each mill 4 cards and take 4 damage. But Daniel forgets to mark it down. At least one of those cards is a creature, and I draw a card with my commander. We then resolve the Rankle triggers to draw a card and lose a life, and each player sacrifices a creature. Daniel sacks his messenger, and he returns to the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it, and chooses to deal 2 damage to Devin. On my second main phase, I cast a Nighthawk Scavenger, followed by a Metallic Mimic, choosing the creature type Rogue as it enters. On my end step, Abel cycles away Secluded Step and draws a card. He then sacks a clue and draws another card. Before he ends my turn, he takes the time to look at Devin's hand again, and I remember to draw a card with Sig. Abel then draws for turn and drops a Maze of Ith on the field. He does nothing else on his turn and passes. On his end step, Daniel cracks a clue and draws a card. Daniel again targets himself with the Bloodgift Demon and draws a card and loses a life, and then draws for turn. He then moves to combat and swings a team at me. Since he is attacking with 3 creatures, he pays the cost to bring back the Warcry Phoenix from his graveyard, tapped and attacking me as well. I decide to just take the 13 as not to lose my scavenger.
Just taking it
And,
like a champ.
On his second main phase, Daniel casts a Mayhem Devil and passes. Turn 9 starts with Devin casting a Whip Tongue Hydra, and now I wish I would have blocked the last turn. Since 4 flyers were destroyed, the Hydra gets a total of 4 counters.
I'll swing Rurik Thar at you, Abel, and I'll swing Whip Tongue Hydra at you, Daniel.
Responses, Albert?
Oh, fuck no, I'm happy. I don't give a damn.
Maze of Ith.
This will probably bite me in the ass. Alright, yeah, it works.
Before blocks, Daniel cracks a clue and deals 1 damage with the Mayhem Devil to my Mimic, and then blocks the Hydra with the Devil. I then start my turn by losing my Mana Crypt trigger and taking 3. After that, I draw for turn and cast a Ruin Crab.
That's not a rogue.
No
Then play a Swamp Return and mill the table for 3. I follow that up by casting a Kicked Maddening Cacophony to make each of my opponents mill half of their decks. I do take 6 damage from Rurik Thar doing so, but it was well worth it. Unfortunately, Abel has Kozilek, Butcher of Truth in the pile, and gets to shuffle his graveyard back into his deck. On my end step, Abel looks at Daniel's hand. After that, he spends 4 mana to crack 2 clues and draw 2. He then draws for turn and plays a Flooded Strand as his land drop, and simply passes the turn. Daniel starts his turn by casting a Necromantic Selection, and takes 6 damage.
And then I'm going to respond.
Heroic Intervention?
Yes.
Devin also loses 6 life to Rurik Thar, but is able to save his board. The selection resolves, and the rest of us lose all of our creatures. Daniel chooses to return the Geralf's Messenger, targeting Devin to lose 2 life.
Oh, you could have just killed Albert.
Devin starts his turn, drawing a card, and casting Wolfear Silverheart.
Albert, do you respond?
Oh, I don't got anything. I'd die. I'd die before it
Pass
resolved.
priority.
Yeah, true. You would look like, I can't dead.
He soul bonds it to the Whip Tongue Hydra, and then moves to combat and targets the wolf with Xenagos' ability. Devin chooses to swing the Hydra and Rurik Thar at Abel, and Xenagos and the wolf at Daniel. Except Abel has different plans and casts a Holy Day to fog all combat damage, but still loses 6 life because of Rurik Thar.
God, I wish I had Skull Crack right now. Oh, it would have been so good.
I start my turn rolling for the Mana Crypt trigger and live to see another turn. I then draw for turn and tap my Commander Sphere, floating black mana. Then sack it to draw a card.
I like to live dangerously. Marsh Flats.
I then tap and sack the Marsh Flats, taking 1 damage, and for some strange reason, search up an island by mistake. I use the floating mana to help cast an Archfiend of Depravity. On my end step, Abel takes 6 life to cast Despark to exile Rurik Thar. He then taps the glasses to look at Devin's hand. Abel then chooses to sack his Flooded Strand and loses a life, and searches up a scrubland to the field. He then taps it to cast Vampiric Tutor, losing 2 more life and searching a card to the top of his library. He then casts Abeyance, targeting me, but really just casts it to draw a card.
I will not destroy land. You have fancy lands over there?
No, I have basics, man.
Oh.
Sorry, snow basics. It came up so much this game.
Abel then starts his turn and casts an Academy Manufacturer. He then goes to cast his commander.
You have responses?
What about you guys?
I've told you no.
Alright,
You're gonna king make.
Nah, that's fine. Don't worry
probably. I don't care.
about it. You just want to impact this game.
Yeah.
I choose to counter Will, since he didn't use the Caverner Souls to cast him, return Devin's Hydra, make a copy of my Archfiend of Depravity, and draw a card.
The Dying Man.
You know what you could have bounced, Albert?
What's that?
Mana Crypts.
Oh, I could have bounced it.
Abel then plays a tap Beseiju, who shelters all, and then passes to Daniel. Daniel draws for turn, and then casts a Flame Wreath Phoenix, choosing Abel and asks him not to pay the tribute so it can have haste. He then moves to combat and swings both creatures at Devin. On his second main, Daniel casts a Doomed Dissenter and goes to his end step. He then tries to sack the Doomed Dissenter to get a zombie, but since there are 2 Archfiend triggers on the stack, he would still have to sack a second creature.
So instead of
Go back, 'cause
that,
I wanna use this one.
I actually, I'll take back the Geralf's Messenger.
Yeah.
Albert, you lose the game.
What the fuck?
Yeah! There's enough metal in here.
That's funny.
Alright, alright.
He then ends his turn and draws his cards. Devin starts his turn by playing a Carplucent Forest. He then recasts his Whip Tongue Hydra, only destroying Daniel's Phoenix, which goes back to his hand when it dies. He chooses to have its soul bond with the wolf again, and then goes to combat. The Hydra gets targeted with the Xenagos ability and swings both creatures at Abel, but Abel again responds with Darkness. On his second main phase, Devin casts a Nature's Lore, followed by a Search for Tomorrow, and then just passes the turn. On his end step, Abel taps the glasses to look at Daniel's hand, and then starts his turn. And for some reason, Daniel makes a crazy deal with him.
If you don't silence me, I promise I will not pitch cards to
There's like a
pass
bunch
red.
of shit going on over there.
I know.
For like one turn?
I'm
For
just
the
here
whole
trying to
game?
punch face.
Oh, really? Yes.
Oh wow, that's a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I'm promising you I won't burn you out.
Okay. That's a very generous deal.
He then casts his commander, Will the Wise again, and both Daniel and Devin choose to lose a life. Abel will then make another clue, but with the Academy manufacturer out, he'll also make a treasure and food token as well. He will then make another copy of each with the Anointed Procession. After that, he casts an Imperial Seal to tutor a card to the top of his deck and loses 2 life. Daniel starts off by playing Celestis.
It's been so long since my turn.
He then recasts his Flame Wreath Phoenix.
You did.
Dave, I'm going to choose you again. Do you want to give me counters, or do you want me to recur this with haste?
You were generous with your deal, so I'll live the one that you need.
God, I wish you would just lightning bolt him right now.
Daniel then casts Feed the Swarm, targeting the Wolf-Ear Silverheart, and loses 5 life in the process. Devin starts his turn and casts a Combustible Gearhold. He targets Daniel with its ability. Daniel chooses to have Devin mill the top 3 cards and...
Please get a gamble.
7. 9 total.
Oh.
Another 5, so 14.
Can I save you?
Well, not anymore.
Devin moves to combat, targeting the Gearhulk with Xenagos, and swings both at Abel. In response, Abel taps the glasses to look at his hand. He then taps 1 white mana to cast.
Ethereal Haze.
Is a fog.
Yes.
I'm noticing a theme here.
On Devin's end step, Abel sacks a clue to draw a card. He then draws for turn.
Devin, I'm gonna combo.
Am I dead?
I'm an yes.
Just tell me I'm dead.
Yes.
He then casts an Eldrazi Displacer, but quickly realizes he doesn't have enough colorless mana to go off.
See, maybe I'm not dead. See, kids, this is why you don't just...
Yeah, this is why you don't scoop.
He then pays 3 to flicker Will with a Displacer. When it leaves the battlefield, Devin chooses to lose 1 life rather than make a clue. Abel will then make a clue, food, and treasure, and then double them with a procession. When Will comes back in, Devin loses another 1 life, and Abel makes all his tokens again. He then plays a Cave of Koilos as his land drop. He then cracks a couple treasures and a colorless land to do it all again. And Devin gets drained for 1 more when it leaves and another when it enters. After he makes all his tokens, he ends his turn.
Imagine I'm just like slow rolling like shock. just...
Devin starts to take his turn, and on his upkeep, Abel casts a Silence on him, making him unable to cast any spells on his turn. Devin moves straight to combat and targets the Hydra with Xenagos. He swings both creatures at Abel, but before damage, Abel casts a Stunning Reversal.
Why didn't you just ping him?
Abel then starts his turn by casting Soul Warden to start gaining life. He then starts blinking his commander a bunch of times, making tons of tokens.
2 hours later.
Devin finally asks Abel to just show him his win cons and concedes. Congratulations to Abel. So this may not have been the most explosive combo win we've seen on this channel, but eventually Abel would have gotten there. This is the first time we had seen this deck in action and had no prior knowledge of how it played out. We weren't expecting it to be a Turbo Fog deck, but I'm pretty sure if we had known that, the table would have focused on knocking him out first. Abel's deck just aims to make as many tokens as possible and wants to have a Krark Clan Ironworks on the field to generate a ton of colorless mana, This would allow him to continuously blink Will with the Eldrazi Displacer in the hopes of draining the table, or just sack all of his artifact tokens to a KCI and pump all that mana into a Walking Ballista, and just shoot his opponents down. Devin was such a trooper this game. This game lasted an absurd amount of time, but he never stopped trying to push damage through, even in the face of what seemed like an endless amount of fogs. I came with a pretty casual deck this time. There was no infinite combos or anything, just straight up mill. But this strategy is a good way of getting hated out of the game first. And other than milling everyone for half of their library with maddening cacophony, it wasn't that impressive. It also feels really bad when you mill someone's Shuffle Titan back into their deck. Daniel, what can I say? I'm not sure why he made that deal with Abel. He admitted after the game it was a mistake. His commander and any number of creatures in his deck could have drained Abel for the last few points of damage, especially since Tibble stuck around the entire game and kept Abel from gaining any life. But he saw Devin as the bigger threat and pretty much handed the game to Abel. Him getting knocked out by Combustible Gear Hulk was pretty funny though. Well, that's it for this episode, but before we go, this month marks the 1 year anniversary of our channel. To celebrate, we will be doing some giveaways on our Twitch stream this Friday at 7 PM Pacific Standard Time, as well as giving away this Foil Liliana the Veil PTQ Promo. All you have to do is like, subscribe, and leave a comment on this video. Let us know how we're doing, or if you are excited about the Stranger Things commanders, if you plan on building any, or if you just flat out despise them. Just drop those comments. If you want additional entries, make sure you stop by each of our Season 2 videos and drop a like and comment on those too. Patrons will also automatically receive extra entries, so if you would like to become a patron, just sign up before February 1st. Winner will be announced 2 weeks from now on Wednesday, February 2nd. Before we go, we'd like to give a big thank you to our amazing patrons. We are glad to have your support and thankful for each and every one of you. We here at In Response would like to thank you for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure you follow us on our social medias. We also stream every Friday night at 7 PM Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for watching. Have an awesome day.